So let's talk about a moment that happens in pretty much every growing company. It's that critical point when you have to graduate from your favorite automation tools. It's when those simple, quick connections just aren't cutting it anymore, and you really have to start thinking about true business infrastructure.
And that leads to a pretty tough question, one you might not want to ask about a tool that's been such a game changer for so many of us. But is it possible that the very tool that helped you get this far is now secretly holding you back? Because what got you here, well, it might not get you to that next level of scale and stability. And look, let's be super clear here. Zapier is an absolute hero in this story. With over 3 million users, it has completely democratized automation. It's turned these complex, head-scratching tasks into simple, if this, then that workflows. For personal productivity, for team collaboration, it's a total game changer, no question.
But that's the thing. There's a massive difference between automating a Slack notification and automating, say, your entire invoicing system. What works beautifully for personal productivity can become a huge liability when it's suddenly part of your business-critical infrastructure. The rules of the game just change completely.
So, we have to talk about those limits. You know, even the most powerful heroes have their kryptonite. And for these amazing productivity tools, that weakness really starts to show when they get stretched to perform at an enterprise scale they were just never built for.
So how do you know if you're hitting that wall? How can you tell? Well, it turns out there are 5 really clear warning signs. Think of them as red flags popping up, telling you it's probably time to think a little differently about your whole automation strategy.
The very first sign is all about the money. Now, Zapier's per-task pricing, it seems so reasonable when you're just starting out, right? But as your business grows and your workflows get more and more complex, those tiny little costs, they can spiral into something genuinely massive and worse, completely unpredictable.
Let's just take a look at a real-world example. We've got a pretty modest-sized team, a super common business process, and we're looking at it over 1 month. How many tasks do you think that one process generates? 90,000. And this isn't some made-up number. How on earth is that even possible?
Well, the math is actually shockingly simple. You've got 10 managers, each one is checking 20 product categories, and they do it 3 times a day. But here's the kicker. Zapier counts each of the 5 little steps inside that one check as a separate billable task. So just like that, a simple daily check balloons into 90,000 tasks a month, and your costs are suddenly all over the place.
Okay, the second sign is all about control. Or maybe more accurately, the complete lack of it. When anybody and everybody in the company can build their own automations with zero central oversight, you end up creating what's called a governance black hole. You might have heard it called shadow IT, and let me tell you, it's a huge operational risk.
And this shadow IT thing, it creates these enormous gaps. There's no role-based access control, or RBAC, to manage who can automate what. There are no approval workflows for IT to review anything. If a regulator comes knocking, your audit trail is paper thin. And what happens if a change breaks a critical workflow? While there's no easy way to roll it back, it is a complete nightmare for compliance and for stability.
Sign number 3 is a hard technical limit. See, tools that are designed for simple connections, they have these built-in ceilings. We're talking about things like a maximum of 100 steps in a workflow or really short execution timeouts. They just were not architected for the kind of complex, multi-system processes that define how businesses run today.
And this brings us to a massive trend we're seeing across the entire industry. A recent report found that 61%, that's more than half, of all automated processes are now considered complex or highly complex. That means the majority of what businesses need to automate is just flat out outpacing what these simple point-to-point tools can do.
And this slide right here really highlights the difference between simple connection and true orchestration. I mean, look at the left, a classic Zap. An email comes in, it adds a row to a Google Sheet. Super useful, no doubt. But then look at the right. That's a real business process. It's extracting data, validating it against regulations, cross-referencing in SAP, routing exceptions. These are fundamentally different universes of complexity.
And the 5th and final sign is what we call the reliability gap. You know, when an automation is running your payroll or your invoicing system, pretty reliable just doesn't cut it. The standard for business-critical infrastructure has to be higher. It just has to be.
A 99.9% uptime, which is a pretty common service level agreement, or SLA. It sounds amazing, right? Almost perfect. But what does that actually mean in the real world? It means the service is allowed to be down for almost 9 hours every year. Now, an enterprise platform with a 99.95% SLA, that cuts the potential downtime in half. For a critical process, those 4 hours can be the difference between a smooth quarter and an absolute disaster.
So what's the solution here? It's not about throwing out Zapier and finding a better Zapier. It's actually about a shift in your mindset. It's about recognizing that there are two totally distinct worlds of automation, and each one has its own specific purpose. See, Zapier is what's known as an iPaaS. That's Integration Platform as a Service. It's built for individuals to connect different apps, and it's priced per task. Enterprise automation, on the other hand, is built for business owners to automate entire end-to-end processes, and it comes with all that governance stuff built right in and predictable licensing. One connects apps, the other automates the business itself.
Okay, so you've looked at the signs, and you've identified the need to graduate. The good news is this doesn't have to be some painful, all-at-once, rip-and-replace nightmare. There's actually a really smart, phased approach to moving your most critical workflows onto the right platform.
It's a really logical path. First, you just audit and categorize your automations to figure out what you even have. Then you pilot the most high-risk ones on a new platform to prove the value. As you're doing that, you create clear rules for governance. Finally, you scale the migration of only the business-critical stuff, leaving all the other little handy automations right where they are.
And this right here, this is the key takeaway of this whole thing. This isn't an either-or situation. The goal is to build a more sophisticated toolkit. You keep using Zapier for what it's absolutely brilliant at, personal and team productivity, while you graduate your core operational workflows to a platform that was actually built to handle them.
And choosing the right tool really means understanding the total cost of ownership. And that's not just the subscription fee you see every month. It includes the hidden costs of failures, downtime, and all those risks to your business we talked about.
And this is where it gets really interesting. When you look at it over 3 years for a mid-sized company, the Zapier path, once you include the cost of failures and that shadow IT stuff, comes to over $620,000. The enterprise platform path, it's actually lower, at just over $576,000. That's a direct savings of over $44,000. And remember, that number doesn't even try to put a price on the immense cost of compliance risks, or the reputational damage that comes from operational failures. The true savings are likely much, much higher.
So I'll just leave you with this question. Take a really hard look at your own organization. Think about where your automation strategy is today and where it needs to be tomorrow. Are your most important, revenue-generating, compliance-critical workflows running on a platform that was truly built for the job?